I'm Ethan, 27, owner of a growing car service garage. My wife, Lily, 26, hasn't worked since we married 2 years ago. She said she was still figuring things out. I provided. She stayed home. Life felt good. I never thought I'd find out my wife was cheating on me because of my mom. It started the morning I was supposed to fly out for a 5-day business trip to Phoenix Tuesday through Saturday. I'd been planning it for weeks. A supplier invited me to tour their facility and test out some diagnostic equipment that could save the shop thousands each year. It was a big opportunity. Lily was supportive, or at least she acted like she was. She helped me fold clothes the night before and even tucked a note into my bag like she used to back when I first started traveling for work. It said, "Miss you already. Come back to me in one piece." I remember smiling when I read it. I packed it with my shaving kit, but I never got on that flight. Right before I was about to leave for the airport, my phone rang. It was Dr. Hernandez, my mom's doctor, calm but firm. "Your mother collapsed this morning. Minor stroke. She's stable now, but you should come." I dropped everything. Didn't call the airline. Didn't text Lily. I just drove. When I arrived at the hospital, Mom was in a shared recovery room, still groggy but talking. She smiled when she saw me and tried to joke through her slurred words. I stayed with her for hours, holding her hand, asking questions, talking to the nurses. It was around 6 p.m. when she said something I'll never forget. "I didn't want to bother you," she mumbled, her voice still soft. "But I thought you should know. I saw Lily today." That caught me off guard. "You saw her?" I asked. "Where?" She took a slow breath. "Parking lot. Outside the medical building." She didn't see me. She was getting into someone's car. A man. I felt my pulse skip. "Are you sure it was her?" She nodded, her face turning serious. "Ethan, I know what I saw." She kissed him before she got in. I didn't speak. I just sat there, frozen. She didn't say it like she was trying to hurt me. She said it like she hated that she had to. I pulled out my phone and checked my messages. Nothing unusual. A couple of texts from Lily asking if I landed, and one with a heart emoji. That was it. All normal. All fake. I told Mom I needed some air and stepped outside. I stood by my car, gripping the door handle, trying to steady my breathing. There had to be an explanation. A mistake. Maybe Mom saw someone else. Maybe she was confused. She was recovering from a stroke, after all. But my gut, it didn't believe that. I got in my car, sat for a minute, then started driving. I didn't know what I expected. I just knew I couldn't let it go. When I pulled up to the house, everything looked the same: porch light on, curtains closed, her car in the driveway. Calm. Ordinary. I stepped inside. And then I noticed something. There were 2 wine glasses on the counter. One of them still had red in it. A jacket I didn't recognize was hanging on the back of the dining chair. Deep voice laughter came from the hallway. The kind of laugh a man makes when he's at ease, comfortable, welcome. I hadn't even closed the front door yet, but I already knew. My mom had just had a stroke, and my wife had spent the day with another man. I didn't move at first. I stood there in the doorway, holding my breath like I was waiting to wake up or rewind the last 5 seconds. But nothing changed. The jacket was still there. The second glass of wine still sitting on the counter. The quiet, muffled laugh, his, still echoing from somewhere in the hallway. I stepped in, closed the door behind me gently. No slamming, no shouting. Not yet. Just that cold, creeping feeling crawling up my spine. I followed the sound, each step careful, my heart pounding harder than it ever had. And then I heard her voice. Lily. Soft, playful, familiar, the same tone she used when we'd lie in bed and talk about nothing. Only now she wasn't talking to me. I turned the corner and saw them. She was sitting on the edge of the couch, barefoot, legs tucked under her. He was beside her, way too close. Some guy I'd never seen before. Maybe late 20s, clean-cut, smug smile like he belonged there. His hand was on her thigh. She saw me first. Her face changed in a second, from light and laughing to frozen and pale. "Ethan?" The guy looked up, startled but calm, like he wasn't even worried. He stood up slowly, casual, like I was the intruder in my own house. "What the hell is this?" I asked, my voice low, tighter than I expected. Lily opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She looked like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find a single word. I looked at the guy. "Who are you?" He didn't answer, just raised his hand slightly and said, "I think I should go." "Yeah," I said, taking a step closer. You should. He grabbed his jacket and walked past me like this was some awkward misunderstanding. He didn't even look ashamed. He looked mildly inconvenienced. The door clicked shut behind him, and suddenly the house was too quiet. I turned back to Lily. She was still standing by the couch, arms crossed now, like she was bracing for impact. Was that him? I asked. The guy Mom saw you with. Her eyes flickered. She hesitated, just long enough for the silence to answer for her. I sat down, not because I was tired, because my legs didn't feel steady anymore. You told me to text you when I landed, I said. You made me dinner. You kissed me goodbye. And then you did this? The same day? I didn't know you weren't on the flight, she whispered. So, if I had gotten on the plane, you were just going to do this behind my back for 5 days? She looked down, said nothing. That was the answer. I slept on the couch that night. Well, I tried to sleep. I laid there for hours staring at the ceiling, running over every conversation, every moment from the past 6 months, wondering what I missed. She didn't come to me. No apologies. No explanations. Just silence. In the morning, I got up, made coffee like I always did, and sat at the kitchen table while the sunlight poured in like nothing had changed. She came out eventually, wearing one of my old t-shirts. Her face looked like she hadn't slept either. I'm sorry, she said. It was flat, mechanical, like someone told her she was supposed to say it. I didn't answer. She sat down across from me. It's not what you think. I almost laughed. I saw his hand on your leg, Lily. He was drinking wine in our house. You kissed him in a parking lot. Don't insult me by pretending this was innocent. She didn't argue. How long has it been going on? I asked. She paused. A couple of weeks. That hit harder than I expected. Not days. Not one mistake. Weeks. Who is he? She hesitated again. His name is Ryan. I met him at the gym. I felt like I'd been kicked in the ribs. The gym you go to once every other month. She had the decency to look ashamed. I stood up, not trusting myself to sit still anymore. I walked to the sink, ran cold water over my hands just to give them something to feel other than clenched fists. Were you planning to tell me? Or just wait until I found out? I didn't know what I was going to do, she said. I wasn't thinking. You had time to think, I snapped. You had weeks, Lily. She looked like she wanted to cry but held it back. Maybe because she knew she didn't have the right. I didn't go to the shop the next day. I was supposed to. We had 3 cars scheduled, and one of the guys needed help diagnosing a transmission issue. But when I woke up and saw Lily's empty side of the bed, I couldn't do it. I texted Mark, my lead tech, told him something came up with family, and he just replied, "Got it. Hope everything's all right." I stared at the ceiling for a while after that. The room was quiet, but my head was loud. There's something strange that happens when your reality splits. I don't know a better way to describe it. It's like the world keeps moving, and people still expect you to show up like nothing happened, but you're standing in this invisible wreckage no one else can see. The grocery list on the fridge still says milk, bananas, dish soap. The clean laundry is folded. There's a candle burning in the hallway, and yet your life just exploded. Lily was in the kitchen when I finally got up. She didn't say anything. She had her phone in her hand, scrolling, probably pretending to read something she wasn't even seeing. She looked up once, like she was waiting to see if I'd speak. I didn't. I walked past her, grabbed my keys, and left. No destination. Just drove. The roads were quiet that early in the morning, just a few other cars and trucks out. I pulled into a gas station, sat in the lot for 15 minutes, then left without filling up. That was the kind of day it was. I parked at the far end of a strip mall eventually. Just sat there, watching people go in and out of a dollar store, a dry cleaner, a cafe. They all looked so normal. Laughing, holding bags, sipping drinks. I wondered how many of them were carrying something like I was. How many had sat across from someone they trusted, only to find out they were being lied to for weeks. I didn't cry. I thought I might. I felt like I should, but I didn't. I just felt hollow, like something had been taken out of me and replaced with nothing. And then I started thinking about the signs. The times she told me she needed space. The nights she stayed up late and claimed she was reading. The gym bag she suddenly started using again after months of sitting in the closet. How she used to text me goodnight when I was away, and lately, she hadn't. The way she stopped asking about my day. How she'd nod along, but not really listen. And worst of all, how I felt it, deep down, and chose to ignore it. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You trust them. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You believe their silence is tiredness, not distance. You believe in the version of them that kissed you at the altar, not the one sitting on your couch with another man's hand on her thigh. When I finally went back home, the house looked exactly the same. Same street, same porch, same car in the driveway. But something inside me had shifted. I wasn't walking into my life anymore. I was walking into the after. The moment I opened the door, I smelled food. She'd cooked, or maybe reheated something, trying to make it feel normal, like this could all be undone with a plate of pasta and an awkward conversation. I didn't say anything. I walked straight past her, into the living room, and saw that my suitcase was still sitting by the door, the one I'd packed for Phoenix. Untouched, like a ghost of the trip that never happened. A ghost of the man I was supposed to be. I stood there for a minute, staring at it, and I realized I didn't want to unpack it, because if I did, I'd be admitting I was back. And I didn't know if I was. Lily came around the corner. She stood in the doorway of the kitchen, arms crossed over her chest like she didn't know whether to speak or stay quiet. She chose silence. Good. I didn't want her words. Not yet. I sat on the couch, leaned back, and stared at the blank TV. I stayed that way for over an hour, not moving, not thinking, just sitting in the stillness of everything I used to believe. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where this was heading. But one thing I knew for sure. Whatever we used to be, it wasn't there anymore. That night, I didn't say a word to her. I just sat on the couch until it got dark, then pulled a blanket over me and tried to sleep there. She walked past me a couple times, going to the kitchen, then back to the bedroom. I could feel her looking at me, but she never said anything. Not that night. Around 2 a.m., I finally dozed off for maybe an hour. Woke up cold, stiff, with the sound of rain tapping against the windows. It felt strange, lying there on the same couch we used to watch movies on, like nothing had happened, but everything had. In the morning, I made coffee. Same routine. It felt mechanical. Something to keep my hands busy. I didn't know what I was supposed to do with myself. I'd never been through anything like this. There's no manual for finding out your wife's been with someone else. There's no checklist for how to start your day afterward. She came into the kitchen, hoodie on, her hair tied back. She looked like she hadn't slept either. I'm going to stay at my sister's for a while, she said. Give you space. I just nodded. I couldn't even look at her. She grabbed a bag from the bedroom and left maybe 20 minutes later. No hug, no tears, no dramatic goodbye. Just the sound of her car pulling out of the driveway. I sat down at the table and just stared out the window. I think I sat there for hours. Not moving. Not thinking about anything in particular. I felt empty. That afternoon, I went to see my mom. She was doing a little better, sitting up, talking more clearly. She asked me if everything was okay. I told her not really, but I was managing. She reached out and held my hand. Didn't ask more than that. It was the first time in 2 days I felt like I could breathe. It's weird how quickly a house can stop feeling like home. After Lily left, it got quiet. Not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet. The kind that reminds you what's missing. I thought about everything she'd touched in the house. The curtains she picked, the little candles on the shelves, her books still lined up on the nightstand, the hair tie she left on the bathroom counter. You start seeing these things differently when you know someone's been lying to you. Like every piece of your life has her fingerprints on it, and now all of it feels tainted. I stopped using the bedroom, couldn't bring myself to sleep in there. Every time I walked past the door, I imagined her in that bed with someone else. Maybe not him. Maybe someone before. Who knows how deep it went? I tried to go back to work. Mark handled things fine while I was out, but I needed to be there. Needed to keep moving. Cars don't care about your marriage. They just break, and you fix them. That was the one place I still felt like myself. But even there, my mind drifted. I kept going back to conversations with her. The night she said she was tired. The time she told me she needed time to think. How she stopped coming to the shop like she used to. I thought it was just life settling down. Routine. Now I knew better. My phone buzzed once that afternoon. A message from her. All it said was, "Can we talk soon?" I stared at it for a long time before I put the phone back in my pocket. I wasn't ready for that. That night, I made dinner and ate it alone. Watched some show I didn't care about just to fill the silence. At one point, I looked at her spot on the couch, the little blanket she always used, and I felt my throat tighten. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. 2 days later, I told her we could talk. I didn't want her to come back to the house, so I met her at a coffee shop a few miles away. Neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window. She looked tired, smaller somehow, like the weight of what she'd done was finally showing on her face. She didn't smile when she saw me. She just gave a little nod. I sat down. We didn't say anything for a while, just the sound of people around us, cups clinking, soft music in the background. It was strange, sitting across from her like we were strangers. And maybe, in a way, we were. "I'm sorry," she said finally, "for everything, for lying, for not telling you sooner." I looked at her. I think I expected it to make me feel something. Anger, maybe, or sadness, but I just felt numb. "Why?" I asked. She hesitated. "I don't know. I felt lost. You were always working, and I felt like I didn't have anything of my own. Ryan made me feel seen, and I just let it happen." That hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was some huge revelation, but because it was so plain, so avoidable. I gave her a home, stability, everything I thought a man was supposed to give, and she still chose someone else. Was it just him? I asked. She shook her head. No. My stomach turned. That one word changed everything. "I don't know how many times it happened. I didn't keep count," she said. "It wasn't planned. It just kept happening. I'd always tell myself it would stop, and then I'd do it again." I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. It was raining again. Same way it was the night I came home, and everything changed. "You broke us," I said, "and I don't think you even understand how deep that goes." She wiped at her eyes, nodded slowly. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said, "but I wanted you to hear it from me. Not through your mom, not through anyone else." She was right about one thing. There was no going back. After she told me there were others, something in me shut off. Not out of rage. Not even sadness, really. Just this dull, heavy sense of finality. Like the part of me that had been clinging to, "maybe we can fix this," had finally let go. I didn't blow up at her. I didn't call her names or ask for details. What was the point? There's a version of me that maybe would have demanded the full timeline. When, where, how many, what nights she pretended to be mine, but had already given herself to someone else. But I didn't want that version of me to show up. I didn't want to let her drag me down with her. So I just said, "Okay," and got up. She didn't try to stop me. She stayed seated, eyes down, hands folded in front of her like she was praying for some kind of mercy. I walked out of the coffee shop, got into my truck, and sat there with my hands on the wheel for a long time before I started the engine. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt done. It was strange how calm I was. Like my body had already accepted that this chapter was over, and all that was left was the cleanup. When I got home, I walked into the bedroom for the first time in days. It smelled like her, like the lotion she used, the candle on her nightstand, the shampoo that always lingered on her pillow. I opened the closet. Her stuff was still there. Dresses, jackets, some of her heels lined up like they were waiting to be picked for a night out. I grabbed a couple of trash bags and started packing. Not her things, mine. I didn't want to throw her out. I wanted to leave. I filled 2 bags with clothes, grabbed my essentials from the bathroom, and tossed them all in the truck. I didn't know where I was going yet. I just knew I couldn't be there anymore. I texted a buddy of mine, Jared, told him I needed a place to crash for a bit. We hadn't talked much in recent months. Life just got busy, but he replied almost immediately. "Got a spare room. Come by whenever." He didn't ask questions. He knew the look in my eyes when I showed up at his door. That night, sleeping on a different bed in someone else's house, everything finally hit me. I laid there in the dark, and the silence felt heavier than it ever had. No Lily in the next room. No scent of her shampoo. No dim hallway light she always forgot to turn off. Just silence and the realization that the person I loved didn't just betray me. She broke something I didn't know could be broken. And maybe the worst part? She didn't even fight for me. The first few days at Jared's felt unreal. He gave me space, offered a beer, asked once if I wanted to talk, and when I said not yet, he left it alone. We watched a game that weekend, grilled some food in his backyard, and tried to pretend things were normal. I appreciated that more than he knows. But nothing felt normal. Everything had this undercurrent of ache to it, like even the most basic moments were being filtered through this fog I couldn't shake. I'd wake up, forget where I was for half a second, and then remember. My life split in two now. Before and after. I started making a list in my head. A stupid one. Just things I missed. The way she'd always tuck her feet under mine on the couch. How she'd sing along to songs off-key when she thought I wasn't listening. The way she used to sit on the bathroom counter while I brushed my teeth, talking about nothing. And then the list would shift into everything I now questioned. How many of those nights she said, "I love you," and didn't mean it. How many lies she told just to keep me from noticing. How long she'd been planning her betrayal, even if she told herself she wasn't planning it. I hadn't told my parents yet. My mom was still recovering, and I didn't want to drop this on her. But it was eating at me. Not just what Lily did, but what it meant. What it said about me, about our marriage, about everything I thought we had. Lily texted again on the third day. It just said, "Can we talk one more time? Please." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply right away. I walked out into the backyard, sat in one of Jared's plastic lawn chairs, and looked up at the sky. It was quiet. No cars passing, no neighbors yelling, just the wind in the trees. And in that stillness, I started asking myself questions I wasn't ready to answer. Did I want to talk to her again? Did I want closure, or revenge, or peace? Did I even care what she had to say anymore? I didn't know. But I knew one thing. She got to live in the mess she made. I was done cleaning up after her. I didn't answer her text that night. I sat with it, thought about what it might mean, what she might want, whether I could sit across from her again and listen to more words that wouldn't change anything. I tried to imagine what I'd say if I agreed to meet her. Would I ask why again, knowing it wouldn't help? Would I try to understand her like I used to, back when I still thought we were on the same team? There's something weird about betrayal, not just the act, but the days after. You start second-guessing your own instincts, wondering if you should have seen it sooner, if you're partly to blame, if loving someone blindly made you a fool. But here's what I knew by then. I didn't want to fix anything. That part of me was gone. The part that used to hope, that used to bend when things got hard. Lily broke that when she looked me in the eye and said it wasn't just one guy. She texted again the next morning. "Ethan, I'm not trying to win you back. I just want to talk, please." I stared at the message, sitting on Jared's back porch with a cup of black coffee and a knot in my chest. Maybe it wasn't about closure. Maybe it wasn't about getting answers. Maybe I just needed to tell her, out loud, that I wasn't hers anymore. So I replied, "Okay." One time. Public place. She said okay, sent a time and a location. A small park not far from our house. Neutral ground. I got there early, parked under a tree, and stayed in my truck for a few minutes, just watching the place. Kids playing. A couple walking their dog. A group of teenagers throwing a football around like nothing in the world could touch them. I used to feel like that. Like things would always work out in the end. She showed up right on time. Hair tied up. Simple clothes. She looked small in a way I hadn't seen before. Not physically. Just emotionally worn down. I wondered if that guilt was real, or if she just didn't like what came after getting caught. We sat on a bench under a tree, a few feet between us. Neither of us spoke for the first minute. Then she said it. "I'm sorry, Ethan, for everything." I looked at her, waiting for more, but she just sat there, hands folded, voice quiet. "I know sorry doesn't fix anything," she said. "And I know I don't deserve anything from you, but I still wanted to say it." I nodded, slowly. "You should have said it before it got this far." "I know." She looked like she wanted to cry, but was too drained to follow through. "I kept telling myself it wasn't that serious," she said. "That I was still your wife, that I loved you. But the truth is, I stopped being your partner long before I slept with anyone." That line hit harder than anything she'd said before. Because it was true. I felt it now, looking back. That distance. That wall I ignored. "I don't think you even understand what marriage meant," I said. "You liked the safety, the support. But when it stopped being exciting, you looked elsewhere." She didn't deny it. "I didn't know how to ask for help," she whispered. "I didn't want to feel like I'd failed." I shook my head. "You didn't fail, Lily. You chose to lie. You could have told me the truth. You could have left. But instead, you stayed and made me feel like everything was fine while you were sneaking around." We sat there for a while longer. Then I stood up. "I'm not coming back," I said. "I won't fight you in court. I'll be fair. But we're done." She nodded, eyes glossy, lower lip trembling, but she didn't argue. And that was it. I walked away from the bench, away from her, away from the version of myself that thought we'd grow old together. I didn't feel strong, or vindicated, or healed, but I felt honest. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. I thought I had reached the worst of it. After that conversation at the park, after telling her I wasn't coming back, I figured the storm had passed. But it hadn't. I was just in the eye of it. It was a Thursday night when everything finally cracked open again. I was sitting at Jared's, half distracted, trying to force myself into some kind of routine. My phone buzzed, a message from Mark, one of the guys at the shop. He asked me if Lily knew a customer of ours named Connor. I didn't think much of it. I assumed it was just a random connection, some mutual friend nonsense. Until I saw the screenshot. It was a photo posted online weeks before I found out anything. Lily sitting at a long dinner table, smiling. Next to her was Connor, close, casual, his arm resting on the back of her chair like he'd done it 100 times. She was leaning into him. Her face looked soft, familiar, happy, not guilty, not even conflicted. It hit me like a punch to the chest. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was living another life, one where I didn't exist. One where she wasn't someone's wife, she was just available, light, charming, open, free of responsibility, free of honesty, free of everything we built. That photo did something to me. Until then, I'd been hurt, heartbroken, exhausted. But now, I was furious. Not the kind of anger that explodes in a moment, the kind that simmers, sharpens, hardens. The kind that doesn't go away quickly. The kind that sticks to your bones. I started going back through everything in my head. Not just Ryan, the first guy she admitted to, but all the small cracks I'd glossed over. The changes in her routine. The night she said she was with friends but never named who. The gym bag suddenly being used again. The occasional missed calls. The dry, love yous that felt like an obligation, not a truth. It all came together, piece by piece, and it painted a picture I didn't want to see before. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a decision. Over and over again, she'd chosen to be unfaithful, to disrespect me, to lie to my face and then lay her head next to mine like nothing happened. The truth was, I didn't even know who she was anymore. Or maybe I never really did. Maybe I fell in love with the version she gave me, the one she knew I wanted. And once I was locked in, once I was providing and protecting and sacrificing like a husband should, she stopped pretending to care. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up in the spare room, lying there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the times I had gone out of my way to make her happy, all the compromises, all the second chances I gave her for little things, things I shrugged off, thinking they didn't matter. They mattered. She just didn't. The next morning, I got up early, got in my truck, and drove back to the house. Not to see her, she wasn't there. She was still with her sister, or maybe somewhere else entirely. I didn't care. I wasn't there to talk. I was there to leave properly. I walked through the front door like a guest. That's what it felt like now, not my home. Just a place full of things I used to think mattered. A place I once felt safe in, loved in. I realized quickly how small that feeling had become in the last few months. I brought a box and 2 bags, walked room to room and took what was mine, my tools, my few personal books, the photos of my parents, clothes, a few keepsakes. Nothing shared, nothing bought together. I didn't want any piece of our life following me into the next chapter. I left all the furniture, the dishes, the TV, everything she picked out. Let her keep it. Let her sit in the middle of that pretty little house and remember what she threw away. I stopped in the bedroom for a long time. I didn't pack anything there. I just stood in the doorway, looking at the bed we used to share. The bed I used to think was ours. The smell of her perfume still faint in the sheets. I stared at that space and felt absolutely nothing. Not sadness. Not love. Just the full weight of finality. That's when I knew it was really over. When I got back to Jared's, I threw everything into the spare closet and just sat down on the edge of the bed. I stared at the floor for a long time. Not thinking. Not planning. Just existing in the aftermath. Later that week, I saw a lawyer. Told him I didn't want anything from her. No money. No property. Just my name, my peace, and the right to never have to hear her voice again unless legally required. She called a few more times, left voicemails I didn't listen to, sent messages I didn't open. I let them pile up and disappear. I didn't need to read a single one. She said all I needed to hear the moment she chose someone else over me, over and over again. A few nights later, I sat alone on the porch. No music, just wind and stillness and the quietest moment I'd had in weeks. And it hit me, not all at once, but like a wave finally pulling back after weeks of crashing. She lost me, not because I left, not because I stopped loving her, but because she didn't fight to keep me. Because when it mattered, she didn't treat me like a husband. She treated me like a backup plan. And I'm no one's backup. Not anymore.